So we just went ahead and inserted our screen GUI. We set the frame to be false. It's visible to be false. And so if I come over here to test and I press play, you'll see that I don't see the winning screen. Okay, and that's the reason why, because the winning screen's visibility is set to false. Okay, so false. All right, and now let's go ahead and stop that. And if I go back to my screen frames visibility and I set it equal to true, and then I go ahead and test it, play, then you're going to see that it shows congratulations, you've won the game. Okay, but I don't want it to say congratulations, you won the game, right? I only want it to say that if I jump on the train, I've purchased the ticket, and I'm moving forward off into the distance, right? So how do we set that? Well, it's pretty simple. We just need to go ahead and set the frame's visibility to false when you first start. And then we need to go into the script that checks if the player is in the train. So if we come over here and we look and we look and we look, we'll go into Railroad, I believe. We'll go into Railroad. We will go into Train. And this is where the player gets on. The sound effect plays. And what else should happen? Give me a second here. The sound should play, and then maybe we could player that. Let's see, what sound is that? Where is that sound? Is it even here? Oh yeah, it's right here. Okay, so it's the train sound. Okay, good. And then what we want to do is wait a bit. So let's wait for 5 seconds. That gives the player enough time to drive the train forward for a bit. And then we're going to say player GUI screen GUI frame visible is equal to true. And then here is where we want the game to end. Okay, so we'll program the game ending in the next video, but just let me show you why do we do this. Why do we go into player GUI, okay, and then look for the screen GUI and set the frame to visible? Isn't the player's GUI here in, oh my gosh, you might be confused because you might be thinking, like, isn't the screen GUI that we just made here in starter GUI, right? Like, what are you talking about? Why do we go into player GUI? And the reason for that is that when you go ahead and start the game, the player doesn't have access to starter GUI. Okay, what happens is that Roblox takes everything here in starters GUI's folder, it copies it, and it pastes it into the player's player GUI folder. Okay, and then that's where he can have that stuff. So let me go ahead and show you that that's actually happening, and we'll go to test and we'll play. So you saw here that the screen GUI that we just made was in the starter GUI folder, right? And so now that we run the game, everything's getting populated, right? And if I go to players, I go to my player, I go into my player GUI, and you can see here there's couple of things that are already pre-built here, but there's also this screen GUI, right? That screen GUI is the one that we made earlier that's right in here, this guy, okay? But this starter GUI is not accessible, okay? It goes as it copies all this stuff, places it here into player GUI, and we have it here, right? The frame is there, the two text labels are there, and so when we're in game and we're writing scripts for a game, to access our screen GUIs, we're going to do it by going into player GUI and then going to screen GUI, then going to frame, and we're going to set that frame's visibility equal to true. Okay, so that's the reason why we are coding it in this way. Okay, and so let's go ahead and test it and see if it actually does work. So let's run it. And yeah. I believe that there's one thing that's missing here. What I've had you do on your side is I've had you publish to Roblox and then test your game over here, right? And why? Because that allows your game access to the saved variables, the saved data that's here in the data store service, right? But your Roblox Studio can also have access to this data here in data store service, right? But you need to set it to be that way. And so I don't think I've showed you how to do that. So why don't we go over here to home. You'll go to, oh, I gotta stop the game actually. So let's stop the game up. I know it's a little late to tell you about this, but better late than never. So let's go ahead and go to home, game settings, and then here in options, you want to set enable studio access to on. And if you do that, then when you test here in Roblox Studio, it won't save data to the data store service. It will not take data from the player's leader stats and save it up here, but it will take the data from data store service and load it into later stats and player stats. Okay, and that's what we want, because we want to make sure that we have a has coach, it's equal to true, and a has train is equal to true. And those are the two values right now that we want to be sure are set to true on the player's side in the player stats, right, when we play the game. And so right, to make that happen, home, game settings data, and then turn the API service on. Okay, so let's come back over here and test. Press play. And because we set that to on, it's taking all of this data from data store service and it's loading it here into the player. Okay. Let's come back over here. And we can go ahead and check that we do have that data, because we can click here on player, go to player stats, go to has train, and it is true. Okay. We can go to has coach, and it is also true. Okay, so you can do that, so that makes testing a little bit easier, less painful. So let's come back over here to the train, and remember what we're expecting is for the GUI to turn on once we start getting going. So the train sound plays. I'm heading on out. Finally, I'm out of this town. Congratulations, you won the game.